This is the Mark Dolan Way. Top tips for mind, body, and soul, some great life hacks, and my favourite products of the week. This show is available on all podcast platforms, or you can watch it. Just subscribe to the Mark Dolan Way on YouTube and join the Facebook group. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the show. I hope you are very well. I hope you had an excellent week. I think this is episode 52, I'm not going to lie. Can you believe we've done that many episodes? I think it's 52. And I've loved having your company. I was so tired on the last podcast. My brain was like glue. But this is one of the themes of today's show. And I've experienced this in broadcasting. It's where I learned this was from broadcasting, but it's true for so many things in life, which is that how it feels is not how it is. So I was doing a radio show many years ago, and it felt like a disaster. It felt so bad. Just mumbling, tripping over my words, incoherent, boring, monosyllabic, repetitive. Well, I was just dying inside as it was happening. So bad. And I plucked up the courage to listen to it maybe a few days later because I'd somehow obtained a copy of it. And I had it in the car and I slammed it on, and my son was quite young then. When he sat next to me, I slammed it on. And it was really good. You won't believe it. It was really good. Please don't think that I'm somebody that always thinks their work is great, because I've often reviewed my work and been mightily disappointed with it. But no. I was just surprised. And then I just listened to it a couple of times because it was that good. It was really good. So that's when I learnt a big lesson in life, which is that how it feels is not how it is. And let me tell you, it goes the other way. And I have sometimes done, let's say, a comedy show that felt like I was storming it. King of Comedy. Watch it back. Not that good. So that's the funny thing. So the answer is not to be ruled by your emotions. So if you're going through something, let's say you're at work and you're addressing a group, you're in a meeting maybe you're pitching a product, maybe you've got a client or a potential client and you're trying to win their business. It's really important. It's like, okay, the client's in at 2, we've got half an hour with them, we've got to sell what we're doing, and we've got them to say yes and sign on the dotted line. And sometimes, that pitch meeting will feel like it's going really badly. But remember, how it feels is not how it is. So what I want you to do when you're under pressure like that, if you're in a high stress situation and it feels like it's going badly, just stay calm, because it might be absolutely fine. And that it feels bad because that's the impression you've got, and that's emotional, and it's not rational. And anyway, we're not able to identify how things are going because we can't step outside of our body and watch what's happening. So you won't know until it's done. So what you've got to do is keep the faith and stay positive. And if you look at in sport, that's amazing how some people do it, where they the number of sports people that say, I won the match, but I played so badly. It's like, well, you won the match, didn't you? So you didn't play that badly. Better that way round. So it really is very, very valuable to understand that how it feels is not how it is. And next time you're exposed, you're in a difficult situation, and it seems to be going against you, just stay calm and just believe that it's going to be okay. Or at least absolve yourself of making any judgment, going, well, look, everything seems to be going terribly, but let's just keep a smile on my face and let's crack on. Let's pretend like this never happened. I've done that as a comedian, where I felt like the audience were very quiet. Didn't seem like it was going very well. And after that experience of understanding that how it feels is not how it is, You just relax, you don't worry about it. And then at the end, they're like, that was the best show I've ever seen. You're like, really? You guys were so quiet. They loved it. So yeah, it's this is really, really, this is up there with some of the best advice I can give you from the whole series. How it feels is not how it is. And by the way, I'm delighted to say I invented that one. I mean, there are experts who have made a similar observation, but that one's for you. How it feels is not how it is. Cross-reference is the brilliant book, The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters, which is about emotional management. Highly recommended. Was there another example? Yes. What about this? Let's say you're on a hot date. You really like the person, but they're not laughing at your jokes, and the body language is not good. The conversation is going nowhere. The date is going very badly. But remember my golden rule. How it feels is not how it is. Because then afterwards, the person that you had the date with said, oh, by the way, I really enjoyed the date. I just want you to know I had a really bad migraine. I didn't want to bother you by telling you about it, but I had a migraine for the whole date, but I really enjoyed your company. So how it feels is not how it is. That person was having a great time, really liked you, but had a migraine. Or they were just a bit tired. Or, wait for it, shy. I've had encounters with people, professional encounters, maybe romantic encounters or a friendship thing where someone has seemed like really cold, really unfriendly. It's like, oh, they don't like me at all. And what it is they're just shy. Sometimes shy people send out quite sort of negative vibes. It's like, Stephanie hates me. She doesn't hate you. She's shy. Shy people are bad at giving the impression that they like you, that they've got a barrier, they're closed down, they're awkward, they're stiff, and they're defensive. I mean, here's the other amazing thing. When it comes to romance, sometimes if someone really likes you, they're a bit rude to you, or maybe ignore you. The person that really likes you has just like stayed away from you for the whole night. Won't make eye contact and is a little bit grumpy with you when you bump into them in the corridor. Hey, Caroline, how are you? She's like, I'm fine, thanks. And off she goes. And you're like, God, Caroline hates me. No, she doesn't. Caroline likes you. It's quite the opposite. But she's shy. She's awkward. She doesn't want to humiliate herself by showing interest in you and then you to reject her. So she's going to be rude to you in case you do. And yet, really, you're supposed to be together. Wow. But if you're in that corridor and you're thinking, well, look, this feels bad, right? She's been kind of rude to me, but how it feels is not how it is, then you just ignore the rudeness and you just crack on. And you say, would you like some popcorn? I have popcorn. Would you like some? Who's going to say no to popcorn? It's the best stuff ever, isn't it? So there you go. I really like that one. I'm really happy with it. And it's yours. How it feels is not how it is. The other one that's very good is people are not mind readers. So I was working today, brilliant team, lovely. They care, they're very committed, and I consider them friends. I'm one of those people, people say that you shouldn't be friends with your colleagues. They say you shouldn't be friends with your kids. Well, my kids are my friends. They're my kids and my friends. And my colleagues are my colleagues and my friends. And I move swiftly. When it comes to work, I move straight to the friendship format because I just feel that you spend many hours of the working day with your colleagues. So why wouldn't they be your friends? And yes, there can be tough times and you can say, Mohammed, you've really underperformed there, which is an unfriendly thing to say, but that's your job to tell Mohammed that. It doesn't stop him being your friend. And afterwards you shake on it and go, listen, nothing personal, by the way. I just want you to be the best you can be. So, so lovely colleagues. But there was just sort of this very clunky mistake. First of all, I made a creative suggestion for the show, and then what I got back was not quite right. it was about 30% right, it was about 70% wrong. But the thing is, I hadn't given a detailed brief, right? So what I got back was, majority not what I wanted. Now, an idiot will get cross with the colleagues and go, this is all wrong. What are you doing? And by the way, we all have idiot colleagues and terrible, some people, and then they got bosses that are like, shout at them about anything. But when I got this work back, some of which was wrong, some of which was right, by the way, but some of which was wrong, I wasn't even for a second cross with those people, because I realized that they're not mind readers. I hadn't given a detailed brief of what exactly I was looking for. I had a picture in my head of what I wanted. I didn't get that back because I didn't really explain it properly. I didn't explain it fully. I explained it a bit. So therefore it was a bit right. And I just thought to myself when it came back, and it meant more work and all the rest of it. But I just thought, well, wait a minute. They're not mind readers, are they? They're clever. They're creative. They're hardworking. But they're not clairvoyant. They can't see inside your skull. So remember that. Next time things are not the way you want them to be, they're not mind readers. The waiter that brings the wrong kind of chips. You wanted the fat fries, not the skinny fries. Well, they're not a mind reader. You needed to be clear. And you'll find that life is a lot more fluid and a lot more comfortable and pleasant when you understand that people aren't mind readers. And it's the same in relationships. What is the number one problem in relationships? Communication. It's the assumption that your partner's a bloody mind reader. Well, why didn't you know I was tired? Why didn't you know I was stressed? It's like, well, because I'm not David Blaine. The other one, I've got these little grouping of suggestions, comments here. And it was a few weeks ago, I worked with a different team who are also excellent. But there were a couple of things that I wouldn't do and don't like and disagree with, process-wise. But there's a couple of things. First of all, it's not my gig. So if I was permanently doing it, then I would really push for these changes because I'd be fully invested in it. But when you come into an operation, it's someone else's rules. It's like you go into someone's house and it's like shoes off. Who are you to wear shoes in a no shoes household? You're not going to, are you? It's like they don't wear shoes indoors. You take your shoes off. It's an etiquette. And here's the thing. It's their bloody house. So I think, understanding that is important. So I'm in, metaphorically, professionally, I'm in someone else's house. That's the first thing. Although I can influence it because, of course, if I'm working on a show that's not mine, I'm still fronting it, aren't I? I'm still putting my name to it, and therefore, if I've got serious objections to something, then I guess I can I can press home the point and stand my ground a bit. But a lot of the time, you just think, you're here for a week, and it's a temporary arrangement. You let it go. And so here's the expression I would use: hill to die on. Have you heard that expression? Hill to die on. So sometimes in your life, just ask yourself, is this a hill to die on? So do I have to have a big, huge disagreement with colleagues that I'm only going to see temporarily and then I'm off again? Do I really need to open this can of worms and have all this conflict? Is that the hill to die on? No. What you do is you swallow it and you go, it's fine. It's okay, isn't it? So I want you to do that every day. When you get worked up about something, just ask yourself, is that a hill to die on? There used to be a brilliant lawyer who was on the radio in the UK, in London, and he was called Gary Jacobs. I'm so glad I remembered his name. So this is an obscure name to many, but there might be a few of you out there who know British radio and London radio that will be familiar with a wonderful lawyer called Gary Jacobs. He was a big bear of a man, a bearded guy, big old unit. Oh, he used to have Cockney accents or rough voice like that. Just imagine who's the guy that plays gangsters all the time? and he does adverts for gambling companies. He plays Cockney gangsters. Ray Winstone. Just imagine Ray Winstone. It's that sort of voice. Or the other guy that used to play gangsters all the time, who pretty much was replaced by Ray Winstone, the guy that was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What's the name of that actor? He was a Cockney as well, wasn't he? He was in a movie called Mona Lisa. Bob Hoskins, there you go. He was a lawyer, a top lawyer, and he was on the radio, and it was a radio phone-in on LBC, London Broadcasting Corporation. London Broadcasting Company, I think. And people would call up and they say, I've got a dispute with my neighbour about the hedge is too high, or I was dismissed from work, they still owe me a week's wages, or I got a parking ticket in a private car park, they sent me a bill, I wasn't there. And he was very good at giving advice, but I have to tell you, 80% of the time, he would say, right, how much has this cost you so far? How much time have you put into this? How much more time are you willing to put in this? And in the end, they'd say, oh, well, I've been working on this for a year, and so far it's cost me £180. Then he'd say, do you know what? Do you want to spend another year worrying about this? He said, I know it's unfortunate, but just, I'd let it go if I were you. And this is a lawyer, right? Lawyers are normally there to go, oh, you have a case, let me tell you, and I can help. But no, very often he just said, look, you have to decide whether it's really worth the hassle. Is that a hill to die on? Some issue with your neighbour and it's the wobbly fence. And it's like, do you know what? I can live with a wobbly fence. Is it going to destroy my whole existence having a slightly wobbly fence? Or the fence is 20 centimetres on the wrong side on my land? Unless it's legally binding, do you just let it go? Do you know what I mean? So every day when you get concerned about little things, decide whether that is a hill to die on or not. And I think you'll find that 80%, 90% of things are not a hill to die on. But by the way, 10% absolutely are. They absolutely are. So I'm not saying to you that there are not hills to die on. There most certainly are hills to die on. During the pandemico, I objected to the mask mandates. No problem with masks, but the enforcement of them with the science and the evidence debatable to enforce them was completely wrong in my view, and that was a hill I was willing to die on. So there are things, relationships-wise, one or two relationships where there was just a certain stuff going on. I just thought, I'm not having this. Even if I really liked the person, that was a hill to die on. I'm like, I'm not having this. This is a deal breaker for me. That's my red line. So work out what your red lines are and what your red lines are not. And you're good to go. Right. Now, listen, a few things. Product of the week. Well, this one is so obscure, but it's very good. And it's called Bisto. And Bisto is there to make gravy. Now, this show is extraordinarily international. We're in New Zealand, Portugal, the United States, if you've heard of it, Sweden, India, I think Iran, which is nice. And so therefore, for me to recommend a uniquely British product is absurd. But then again, don't forget, it's 2024 and we have the internet, don't we? So it's not beyond the wit of man for you to get online and purchase a box of Bisto. But if you can't get hold of Bisto, then I guess I'll keep this bit short because I don't want to bang on for ages about something you can't get hold of. But Bisto is a British invention, and it's made up of, it's got onion powder in there and a bit of salt. It's got some caramel colour, so that it makes the gravy nice and brown. Potato starch. And I've just never found anything that makes better gravy. And what I like about it, so what you do, let's say you do a roast beef or something. You take all the juices and you pour them into the saucepan. I like to then put the juices into the fridge, and then the fat at the top goes hard and I scrape that off. But you, by all means, you're welcome to keep the fat, but I don't really like the idea of a very fatty gravy. So what I do is I put it in the fridge and I scrape off the fat. And so there's like just the juices, amazing, right? So I put that in a pan. I then put some water in the pan, and then a beef stock cube, about 500 ml, half a litre. And then I add Bisto, and all you do is it's a couple of teaspoons. You're going to have to judge it, I'm afraid. 2 or 3 teaspoons into a cup, mixed with a small amount of water. Then you bring the stock, the liquid stock, to the boil. And you keep mixing the Bisto. Keep it freshly mixed because it separates almost instantly. Keep mixing that Bisto, which is a few teaspoons of Bisto with water. And then as the stock is boiling, you pour the Bisto in and then stir vigorously at the same time. And what it does is it thickens the gravy, gives it that brown colour and a lovely roast beef taste. And it just works. And it's Bisto. But it's Bisto powder. You can get Bisto granules, which is like instant gravy. I'm not so keen on that. This Bisto stuff is old-fashioned. It's what your great-grandmother would have made. Anyway, that's my product of the week. Absolutely delicious. Bisto. But you know what I'm going to do, because I love you loads? I'm going to give you a recipe for excellent gravy that does not involve Bisto in case you're having trouble getting it. And what you do, again, the juices of the meat, and by the way, this works for turkey, it works for chicken, it works for lamb, all of the juices, if you can, just sort of pour them into a cup. And then you have the stock. Now, listen, I'm a huge fan of beef stock. And so I do something very controversial, which is that I make all gravy with beef stock, even if the meat is lamb, turkey, or chicken, or game. I still use beef stock. Isn't that amazing? So I do not use chicken stock cubes. I just like beef stock, and I think I think beef is a very neutral flavour, and I think that what's the word? I'm going to use a posh word for you. But maybe I was going to say coalesces. It coalesces nicely with any meat. It's not quite right. It fits alongside. It's compatible with, there you go, that's the word I was looking for. I knew it was a C word. It's compatible with any number of meats, not fish. Anyway, so that's my top tip. I don't really like chicken stock. There, I said it. Don't really like vegetable stock, so the beef stock would be the thing. And then what you do, so you've got a stock cube, half a litre of water, bring it to the boil so that the stock cube dissolves. And then, instead of your Bisto, you get some corn flour. And you mix corn flour in a cup with a little bit of water, just so it's just liquid, okay? Just liquid. Pour that in whilst the stock is boiling, and that will thicken it, and it's absolutely decent. What I might recommend is maybe a little bit more stock than is recommended. So if it's 1 stock cube for half a litre of gravy, I would put in 1.5 stock cubes, just so it's extra salty, extra stocky. Whereas you don't need that with the Bisto because it already adds the kind of beef vibes. But there you go. That's my gravy story. What's nice about the corn flour or the gravy or the Bisto is that you go gently. So if it's not thick enough, you add a bit more, add a bit more. If it's too thick, there's no going back. So that's one product of the week. I've got another couple of ideas, by the way. And this one is extraordinarily sexist, and I'd like to apologise. My products of the week for men this week is a tie. I actually gave a young relative, a tie for Christmas. I was away, and we didn't have anything for this excellent young man who is about 20. And I am a ridiculous individual, and so travel with neckties. Why on earth would you go on holiday with ties? What am I, bloody James Bond? What is going on? What's gotten into my head? I cannot travel without a necktie. I often won't wear it, but I like to travel with one. Anyway, I travelled with a few this year because I'm insane. And one of them is more or less mint condition, barely worn, and we were desperate for a gift for this young man. I'm like, why don't we give him one of my ties? Lovely silk tie, wrapped it up, knitted. I love a knitted tie. Knitted silk, how good is that? I love woolen ties as well. Of course, ties serve no function whatsoever. They don't keep you warm. I think, I don't know what ties are. I mean, I need to look it up really, but if you want me to speculate, I think that they are symbolic. So I think it's symbolism. I think it's a man pretending to have a willy. I don't know why. I just think there's something quite sort of phallic about a tie. I think it's a pretend willy. Could that be it? Sort of as it's dangling along. I think that's one possibility. I also think a tie could be a way of disguising fatness, because you know when gents get to a certain age and the old belly kicks in, the old beer belly, the tie just sort of breaks it up a bit. If you're very overweight and you wear a tie, that is a good distraction. It just breaks it up. Whereas if you've got a lad, a big old unit, big old chunky fella, barrel chested, beer belly, and he's just squeezed into a shirt, I don't think it looks good. Slap a tie on and kind of, brings it together a little bit. So I think ties, that could be one of the two reasons why ties exist. But there will be some, you'll know. There'll be a historian listening that has the answer. But here's the thing that you cannot get away from with ties. They're smart. I don't know why, but when you put on a tie, you're smart. I don't know what makes a tie smart. Why is that smart? But it is. Ties are smart. End of. People go to weddings and they have the open neck shirt because that's the new thing. And I used to be at tech conferences with no ties. They told me, don't wear a tie. But I felt like, because that was a strict rule, that felt like just as conventional as wearing a tie. Do you know what I mean? It became a corporate thing. Not because they were like, oh, don't wear a tie, it's so corporate. But then it became corporate to not wear a tie because not wearing a tie was a corporate policy. So it's corporate either way. So weirdly enough, if you're anti-corporate, the best thing to do is wear a tie because it's just not the done thing, is it? Not the done thing. I really, really think that you gentlemen should start wearing a tie from time to time, right? You know what? You go out with your mates to the pub. You just got a tie on. In the United Kingdom, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, a gentleman would have what was called his Sunday best. So a gentleman on a Sunday would put on a suit and a tie, probably go to church back in the day, and then he'd pop to his local pub and have a couple of real ales. And he'd be in his Sunday best. Isn't that a lovely expression? Sunday best. And that means your best clothes because it's Sunday. I'm going to dress up. It's a lovely ritual. People enjoyed it. There's pictures of it. I'm sure if you Google Sunday best. Should we Google Sunday best quickly? Come on. I know you love it when I get on the internet and start Googling things. God, I spent about 12 hours looking up filofaxes last time, didn't I? Apologies for that. But maybe it was good. Who knows? How it feels is not how it is. Sunday best. This will be embarrassing if I don't know. If nothing comes up now. It's just me. I've imagined the whole thing. Sunday best. Images. I love Google Images. Right, so far, nothing has come up that proves my point. For God's sakes. This is a complete disaster. I cannot find... Oh, there you go. I found one. Sunday best clothes. And that's a Super Stock, which is a image company. Blimey, this is going about as well as my Filofax search. Anyway, take my word for it. People used to dress up on a Sunday. And in fact, there's a picture here of in Georgia, someone in Georgia in their Sunday best. Children in their Sunday best, who also look like they're in the United States. So yeah, I think it seems to be potentially quite a global thing. But anyway, I love it. So what I want you to do, lads, is if you don't own a tie, I think this gift at Christmas that this young man, I don't think he owned a tie. I think it was his first tie. You should definitely have a tie and just surprise people. If you're a little shy, you can wear the tie with a shirt and then a jumper on top, like a crew neck. I always find that quite well. You get the knot of the tie just poking out of the top. I think it's old school. I think it's a bit preppy, and I like it. If you wear a tie, it's professional. It's smarter. We don't know why, but it just is. And I swear to God, whenever I wear a tie, I get compliments. And the reason why is because so few people wear a tie. So when you do, it really stands out. Remember, this show is about you being in the 5% of the extraordinary people, not the 95% of everyone else, right? I want to give you the edge. And therefore, that's what this is about. And if you're a guy and you wear a tie, I'm putting you in the 5%. It's going to take some self-confidence. If you go to an office that's not a tie office and you wear a tie, you're going to feel awkward. People might even tease you, but that's only because they're jealous, because you've gone your own way and you've been bold and you're an individual and you're pushing against the grain. But I think it's a hell of a thing. I think it's a hell of a flex for a guy to wear a tie in 2024. Don't get me wrong, 30 years ago, everyone was wearing one, but now it's an angle. And I think it will give you the edge. I really do. I often wear a tie. A couple of years ago, I went out for annual Christmas drinks with my mate, and I had a tie on. I wasn't coming from work. I wasn't coming from a meeting. I put a tie on and went out. I beg your pardon. That's why some of those knitted ties are good, because they're a bit more casual. You know those silk knitted ones which are sort of square at the bottom, the flat edge? Lovely. Anyway, do it. Now, I do not know anything about women's clothes, so I would really like to have an equivalent suggestion to you women. But I mean, seriously, am I qualified to even dare to say what you should be doing? But in the spirit of equality, I would like to offer a suggestion that's a bit like the tie. And all I can say to you is, well, you're probably screaming the answer at me. I don't know what the answer would be. Is it a certain type of dress? Is it a skirt? Is it high heels? Is it tights? I don't know. Is it a hat? Could be a hat. But anyway, whatever it is, women listening, the equivalent of a tie, I want you to start doing that too. If you wanted me to capture what it is in a word, oh, see, look, I'm wearing a tie now. I don't have to be wearing this. I'm doing the podcast. I'm wearing a tie because I just felt like I wanted to mix it up. I often wear just a sweater, don't I? A crew neck for this show. But I've slammed on a tie because, well, I'm talking about ties, and B, I think it actually makes me feel more professional. I think I might wear one. I'll wear one next time as well. And I'll go through a little phase now of wearing a tie for you. By the way, if you want to see the tie, you need to you need to watch the show on what they call YouTube. Now, folks, where were we? If you want me to sum up in a word what it is for both genders to have the edge in terms of your apparel, is go for sophistication. Don't be afraid of sophistication. A tie is sophisticated. I guess high heels, I don't know. Is that sophisticated? It probably is. Whatever it is, or a dress can be very sophisticated, can't it? But if everyone else is going around in jogging trousers and sweatshirts, why can't you be elegant? Why can't you be sophisticated? I think it will give you the edge. And I think it takes only one thing, which is self-confidence. But if you don't have self-confidence, don't worry, just wear the bloody clothes anyway, and people will treat you differently. A friend of mine is very beautiful, and she needed glasses. She got really chunky, thick, black frame glasses because she needed spectacles because her eyes were not working so well. Myopia, they call it, short-sightedness. So she's wearing these thick, chunky glasses, and suddenly she felt like she was taken a lot more seriously by people at work. She noticed a real difference, and now, even when she doesn't need the glasses, she wears them because it gives her that confidence that, and she knows she's going to be taken seriously. So glasses are another good source of sophistication. I mean, they impose an intellectual identity on you that, frankly, you often don't have. But they're great. They do. They make you seem a bit clever, a bit of a thinker. They're sophisticated. The tie will have the same effect on the smart dress, whatever it is. But yeah, there you go. So lads, that's your job this week. Go out and get yourself a tie. And ladies, women, grab yourself a sophisticated item as well. And I'd like you to wear it. Perhaps I'd like you to wear it at times when you're not supposed to. And you go to a football match or something, just break it up a bit. I mean, bend those rules, baby. We're putting you in the 5%, which means you're going to have to go against the grain. That is the price you pay for being in the 5%. It's what I want for you, and I'm sure it's what you want for yourself. I went to the sauna this week. The sauna is lovely, isn't it? I'm sure we've talked about the sauna in the past. I really like it. A couple of sauna tips. I don't know about you, but I'd recommend... You don't have to be starving, but I like to be on a relatively... I like to be fasted for the sauna, or at least, not stuffed full of food. I wouldn't have a big 3-course lunch and then have a sauna. I mean, you could, but I rather be slightly fasted. So that would mean if I was having a sauna at 11 a.m., I wake up in the morning, have a coffee, and then drink some water and stuff, and then just hit that sauna. I would. Or if I was having a sauna at 4, then I'd have a very light lunch, knowing that the sauna was coming. But that's personal choice. But I just think, and also because what it is then, you see, is when you get into the sauna, and then you're going to be very thirsty, and you're going to be guzzling water. And I just don't like the idea of loads of food and then litres of water chucked on top of it. I don't know. I've got a mental block on that. So I go into the sauna slightly fasted, have a glass of water before I go in, and then make sure and have some water at the ready afterwards. Some people have a certain strategy in the sauna, which is they go in for a few minutes and then they get hot and they come out, they cool down, then they go back in again. Some people will even have a cold shower and then go back in, and they're in and out and in and out and in and out. Now that will enable you to spend longer in the sauna if you add up all the minutes. But it's not really how I do it. The way I like to do it, I like to do it in one chunk. And what I'll do is I get into the sauna, I go to the hottest part, you sit in the upper bunk. Obviously heat rises, so the higher up you're sitting, the more you're going to sweat. And I have one towel to sit on and another towel to sort of wipe the sweat off. So this was told to me by a medical lady a long time ago, which is if you're in the sauna and you're sweating, wipe the sweat off, otherwise it will sort of just go back into you. So fill up that towel with all of your, because it's your toxins, isn't it? Get it onto the towel. And the other great thing is that when you're in the sauna and you're sweating, if you keep drying yourself, it draws out more sweat. So it stimulates more sweat. Many health benefits of saunas. It gets your heart rate going. It's happy chemicals and hormones. It's detoxing. Stuff is like pouring out of you that shouldn't be in there. It's just a marvelous thing. I love the sauna. And I was so cool because in London at the moment, it's about around 0 degrees, maybe 1, 2 degrees at the moment. 4, 5, 6 degrees during the day, and then 0, -1, -2 at night. And I was at this outdoor swimming pool called a Lido, which is unheated all year round. It's never heated. It's brutal, it's hardcore, and it's a swimming pool. And it's got a sauna attached. Not attached to the pool, that would be a hazard, I think you'll agree. That would be an electrician's worst nightmare. Just a floating sauna in the pool. You're welcome. Who's the first to try that one out? Come on, Stephanie, in you go. What's the worst that can happen? What happened to Stephanie? How did she die? Oh, she was basically set on fire in a swimming pool because she got into a sauna which was attached to it, and she basically went up in smoke. What a way to go, though. If you're going to go, that's the way to go, isn't it? Go in style. So there's a sauna, and then there's the unheated, ice cold. And of course, if you can imagine, in the summer, it's just pleasant. The water is almost warm, right? But when it's a couple of degrees, then the water is ridiculous. So anyway, the water was 3 degrees this week. 3 degrees. 3 degrees. That's 3 degrees off freezing, folks. So what I like to do with the sauna is I like to sit in there for as long as possible until I've got to get out. And for me, it depends on the temperature. This sauna was about 85 degrees, which is not bad. And I managed about 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, about 25 minutes. And then it was like, okay, I've got to get out now. And I like that feeling. It's like the weight training that I've told you about before. The special episode on that, which I would recommend you dig out. Although it wouldn't be useful if I could tell you which episode that was. I think I need to do a bit more of that, where I can tell you, try episode 30. But one of the episodes is Lifting very heavy things very slowly is how I like to do it. And I feel the same with the sauna, which is you go in and you just sit there and you grind it out until it becomes impossible. Because when people do weight training, they do a thing called failure, right? So in the old days with weight training, remember when I first joined a gym and the instructor would say, okay, do three sets of, you do these 10 reps, you do it 3 times. And, you zoom along. But it doesn't get to the point where your arms don't work anymore. You have a little break. And the way I do the lifting is that you get to the point where the stack won't move anymore, and that's called failure. So you're in and you're out, and you're in. It's very heavy and it's very slow. And then it's like, okay, my muscles I've got a leg press, and at a certain point, the legs just can't move the stack anymore. It's done. And that's called failure. And I like to do that in the sauna. So I sit in there until I've got to get out, and I'd call that failure. And then I got into this 3-degree water. And although that's epically cold, because the body is so smoking hot from the sauna, you can do 30 seconds a minute in those temperatures without too much of a problem, because your body is boiling. If your body was normal temperature, it's a few seconds. Very invigorating, very pleasant, very satisfying, complete adrenaline spike and endorphins and God knows all the other stuff that one enjoys. It was so nice. I loved it. And what I really love, and we've talked about this before, what I love when it gets cold anywhere is that the tap water becomes colder, doesn't it? If your country is cold or your city is cold, then the water coming out of the taps is colder. I love that. I'm so disappointed in warm countries when I have a shower and I put the cold tap on and it's lukewarm. That's not for me. I love that shock of cold water. It's highly addictive. And so the water at the moment in London is absolutely beautiful. It's mint. I'm already looking forward to my cold shower. Like today, I did not need to have a shower. I was clean. You're welcome. And so all I needed to do was wash my hair over the bath, because that's quicker. I was on my way to work. It's really convenient sometimes. Just wash your hair over the bath. You don't have to bother getting naked, get your whole body wet, dry yourself off. Just quickly just wash my hair, job done. But I unnecessarily and needlessly had a full body shower, just in the knowledge that I was going to have that ice cold water on my body. It feels so good. I really want you to get into those cold showers, guys. You've got to do it. It will change your life. By the way, can I just tell you I'm not a doctor, so please be careful if you've got a heart condition. If you're going to do cold water, seek medical advice. The last thing I want you to do is have a bloody coronary in the swimming pool in December on my advice. It's not my advice, just I do it and I love it. Speaking of the cold, by the way, I noticed something this week, and I'm often reminded of this, and it's back to the putting you in the 5% of the high achievers, not the 95% of everyone else. By the way, I don't look down on any of those 95% people. I have been in the 95%, and I often slip back into the 95% because we all do. We're all 95% really. We've just got to stretch ourselves to get into the 5%. And it's actually a daily battle to stay in the 5%. But I got a real metaphor for the 5%. I ride a little moped. London's cold at the moment. A moped is like a small motorbike. Automatic thing, twist and go. How easy is that? No gears. Lovely. Top speed, 60 miles an hour. You're welcome. And I love the freedom and independence of this thing. And I got into work a few days ago when it was very cold. And the bike bay where the motorbikes are parked is normally full. And I have to do something clever like park illegally or start shifting bikes around to accommodate mine. It's always a bit of a drag. If you arrive during the day, the bike bay is full of bikes. We're in central London. It's busy, right? Well, the other day when it was very cold, there were all these spaces. It wasn't full at all. It was half full. I had my pick. And I realized what had happened, which is that a good number of the people who ride motorbikes decided not to go out in the cold weather because they didn't want the discomfort. Perhaps they didn't want the hazard, but they didn't want to be cold. They didn't want to sit on a freezing cold, sit on a bike in a freezing cold wind. And so basically, those people, they're the cowards, right? They're the 95% who decided to sit on a warm train instead, or the bus. But don't they realize what they've relinquished, what they've given up, which is that fresh air as you ride in? Any cyclist will agree, cycling is the same, that lovely fresh air. You get to work and you're invigorated, aren't you? Because you've effectively been outside for the whole trip. And that's the point about two wheels. Whether it's a motorbike or a bicycle, you're outside. When you're in a car, you're not outside, are you? You're in this vacuum-sealed bubble, which is heated. Whereas, but no, honestly, I mean, if I've got to perform, if I've got something demanding, I insist on going on my motorbike because I will be, it's like drinking coffee. I'll be alert. All that oxygen, all that fresh air for the length of the trip really energizes me. Love it. But yeah, so I just noticed that there were these, and then there were a few bikes that were there. And those are the people that we want to be, okay? They're the people that looked outside, could see it was minus 77, but they got on their bike and they did it anyway. And I love that. I love it, love it, love it, love it. I love those people. I want to be those people, and I want you to be those people too. So if you don't fancy something and you don't like the look of it and it's just not nice, I want you to do it anyway, because you will be in the minority. Remember, make friends with discomfort. What did Arnold Schwarzenegger say? Pain is growth. If you have pain, it means you're growing. And if that's going to work on the motorbike, freezing cold while the others are on a warm train, that's good. You've taken the road less travelled, no pun intended. You've taken the difficult, harder path. But you'll be rewarded with a sense of satisfaction that you made it. The others didn't bother, but you did. You took that effort. My dad used to drag me out running on a Sunday morning and often didn't fancy it. And those were the best runs. The times when you didn't fancy it and you're in the cold shower afterwards, you feel $1 million. Those are the runs which are better than the runs that you did want to do. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Folks, I feel like we're reaching the crescendo, aren't we? Shall I just consult the old... Yeah, you know, we better not get carried away. Loving chatting to you. Yeah, I think I'm looking at bits and bobs, and I think we can cover those next time. I think we'll talk about the dangers of scams next time, being scammed and how scammers work. Be fussy is a little 2-word rule, which I'll be discussing with you. Also, you might be wrong. 4 very important words that could really heal the world. Those 4 words could fix everything. You might be wrong. We'll discuss all of that. Plus, I'm going to scour the internet for product of the week ideas. But I just want to say it's been really great talking to you. If you're enjoying the show, please tell your friends and family, friends or family that you think would enjoy the show. This show is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's very partisan. It's not trying to accommodate to any requirements. It is it is quite literally me talking for half an hour. That is it. And you know, I've thought about guests and this and that. You know what? Never say never, actually. But I like the purity of this. I hope you do too. I like the purity of it. I just feel that every other podcast it's guests, isn't it? There's some great podcasts out there, but it's like someone interviewing someone else or just having a bit of a chat and a bit of a laugh with them. And look, not ruling that out, but a part of me, if I sort of look at how things are done, I kind of always want to go the other way. And there are fewer podcasts where it's just someone talking. And so I just think, oh, let's do that then. Let's have that. Let's find that little gap in the market. By the way, at that point, you can point out that there are probably 27 million podcasts where it is people just talking as well. But if you're enjoying the show, which is unforgivably what it is, then tell your friends, tell your family. Please give me an honest review, because it draws other people towards the podcast and the show. But yeah, listen, nothing is off the table for the future in terms of where we take this, what I do with it, what the future is. But for now, the big thing is to deliver this weekly address, come hell nor high water. And let's just have some fun together. And it's a journey, isn't it? And I think a lot of it's revision. I actually want you to go back and re-listen to some of the shows. And maybe even take notes. I feel like I need to take notes. I'd be tempted to pay somebody to listen to my podcast and just take notes, because I don't know whether I can put myself through that. But you know what? When I listen back, I'll probably enjoy it more than I expected, because what's the golden rule? How it feels is not how it is. It's been great to chat. Go and have a great week. I want you to be sophisticated this week. I want you to punch above your weight. I want you to wear something fancy that you don't need to. I want you to decide what hills you're going to die on and which you're not. And you're going to remember that people are not mind readers as you sit in a hot, sweaty sauna. Lots of love, and I'll see you in 7 days. Bye-bye.